This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation
Manufacturing.
Nicely done, Dr. Rade.
Thank you.
Killed it with that word. They are sponsoring a really interesting conference that I think they would be delighted if you would come say hi to them if you're in Southern New England. This is the Road to the Future, RHODE. Get it?
Ah, because it's in Rhode Island?
Exactly. Road to the Future, celebrating opportunities in CTE. This is the RIACTE Conference 2026 on August 14th. And we'll put the registration to that in the show notes. And I am delighted because I'm going to be doing the keynote. I think I'm doing a closing, doing a session. Very, very busy.
Wow.
A bunch of our friends are there. Z-Space is going to be there.
Nice.
But listen, it's not just about me, Liz. Where are you going? What are you doing?
I'm headed to New York on the 21st and 22nd to do the Bridges Conference.
That conference looks cool. I just looked at the website.
Yeah, there's some very cool people going to be there, including me. I am not presenting. I'm just attending. And then actually that same Tuesday, I am the opening plenary panel for the Global Teaching Dialogue through Fulbright, which is totally free, open to anybody. So anybody that is interested in Fulbright and global teaching programs, I'll be doing the panel.
Wait, Liz, do you have a Fulbright?
I had a Fulbright. In 2016.
God, somehow I forgot about that.
It was to Finland.
Sweet. All right. Well, after we record today, I'm going to go to Orlando and then to California, a couple conferences. That same week of the Road to the Future, if you're in New Jersey on August 11th, they're doing their innovation and collaboration event. So it's funny because on the 10th, they're doing a no AI day. On the 11th, they're doing an AI day.
Interesting.
And we're nice enough to have me come join them there. Liz, real quick, we have a special guest in the studio today.
We do.
Yeah. Who is it?
It is our executive producer, Cameron Audia.
Yeah. And why is she here?
Because we have new cameras.
We do. So you may be seeing the pores inside our various faces.
I hope not.
And actually, we're going to announce, for those of you who do join us on Spotify or YouTube, and someday, Apple Video, in a couple weeks, I think we're going to have a new studio, which Cameron is actively designing.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Very cool.
Moving on down.
Moving on down. Liz, this is a delightful story. I couldn't help. Jerry Creasy, former director of technology and innovation at Scarsdale, and does a bunch of AI stuff, including with our friends at the Northwest Putnam Westchester BOCES. So check out Jerry. He does this cool thing called 30 Minutes of AI. As I've said before, he always shares great stuff. So this is Phantom Squatting uses AI hallucinated domains for phishing and malware. This is a delicious double header, Liz.
Yeah, tell me about it.
All right. So you know how AI sometimes makes up domains? Like hallucinates domains, especially on academic journals or law cases or what have you.
Like it makes up a website.
Yeah, hallucinates.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out it hallucinates them with some regularity. So it will hallucinate the same domain. It's like a pattern, which I hadn't realized. I thought it was just a one-off.
Okay.
All right. So you have these AI models that are hallucinating domains. And then the people who do the phishing exploits, they basically then go buy those domains and they park phishing exploits on those domains. So we have hallucination paired and leverage with a phishing exploit.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Isn't it a wonderful time that we live in?
Yeah, that's not good.
If you want to read more, this is Phantom Squatting, uses AI hallucinated domains. This is from The Hacker News. Where else would you find that story? Yeah, fantastic stuff. Liz, who are you?
I'm Dr. Liz Rade.
Nice, that's right. And I'm Matt Mervis. Neither of those names hallucinated nor being squatted on for phishing. And this is ChatEDU, the show about leading and learning in the age of AI. In today's episode, durable assessments improve attendance and
vibes.
And the vibes in higher education. We're going to look at a host of higher education stories, including a pretty cool study from Turnitin about the vibes and the attendance and durable assessments.
Cool. But let's start with the full show rundown.
Obviously, we're going to start with an update that will free Liz from the unreasonable tyranny of having to add files and sources, not to mention the dreaded Create New Notebook button in Notebook LM with a new thing called Google Projects, right? It is a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot of burden in that.
Okay, I'm just saying, when you create a notebook, it feels more like a commitment.
Tell us about student apps.
Next, we'll look at the new Cora Bench framework, which establishes a benchmark for student-facing applications in education.
Then we're going to go to the other side of the world and look at a new Chinese Lenovo phone dedicated to AI.
From there, we'll dive into a critical policy update regarding a new law that recently took effect in Illinois to help schools grapple with AI cyberbullying and deepfakes.
Then we're going to go beneath the surface higher ed style, where globally universities navigate very contrasting strategies. Then we're going to look at UMass and Syracuse and this new study that shows a positive impact of recalibrated assessments, leading, as we said, to the vibes and better attendance.
And of course, we'll end with another great Bright Bite.
Liz, I just about celebrated when I saw this. I stopped using Notebook LM after Google Drive project solved my research chaos. This is from Android Police. And I think you actually play with this. So tell us what's going on and how did it go?
I did. So the author Bhutani explains that they replaced Google Notebook LM with Google Drive projects to organize complex research. So Google Drive now has projects on the left side, and it allows you to build this like dedicated research hub by attaching files and notes and emails directly from Google Drive and your Gmail without altering their original folder structure. It was pretty cool.
So it's just like a Notebook LM, but you don't have to go to Notebook LM.
Correct, but it doesn't do all the like studio stuff of Notebook LM.
Okay, so it's like the analytics part.
It's just, it's almost like you have the middle part, but none of that studio stuff. So I couldn't make a podcast or, those things, which when you're talking about like using it for research, like I don't often use those things on the...
Well, let's be honest. You often don't use it because you find it really to be a pain.
A little bit. But anyway... I made a project. So I made a project right now. I'm working on writing a curriculum for the Department of Labor on Career and College 101 for like 8th graders.
Yep.
But I was able to put in the whole folder from my Google Drive, plus another teacher guide, plus some overview scripts. And then I went into my email and threw in a bunch of the emails, like just clicked on a whole bunch of emails.
Emails can go into these projects too.
Yes.
Wow.
So this was cool. So first, I just wanted to test it and say, like, where in the course do I talk about AI ethics? And it told me exactly where. And it said, what if I wanted to add something about the environment? It told me where it would fit in. But then I said, where did we land on whether or not to add a video on high school options for an 8th grader making a high school decision?
Oh, and it knew from the emails.
So from the emails, it says, and you'll know, Matt, and that this is all true, there is not yet a final decision. The team has left this conversation, the topic open for deeper conversation. And then it says what Dan said, and then it says what Jody said.
That's cool.
And then it says, do you want to put together an agenda or a list of talking points for when the team meets to discuss this topic? So it did pull, everything it pulled was accurate using both the emails and when I was doing course writing stuff. And it's all just super easy to add in there because you just click on add and then it says add from Drive or add from Gmail.
Wild. We should say, and I should have said this at the top, that I believe this right now is a pro level account, at least pro and plus. I was with a group of educators on Thursday. I was doing a leadership retreat and I said, check out this new feature. And they have workspace fundamentals and they're like, don't see it. Although then to make up for it, I said, check out how you can do generative forms, that like new form, and it will like make a form out of AI, and they felt better. Now, does it do the little footnote citation thing that Notebook LM does so you can track back and see where it came from?
Yeah. So like if I hover over this, it tells me that it came from an email. If I hover and you can see like where this person's email was, what this person's email said. So it'll bring me right back to the emails if I click on them, so I can open them and read them myself, and it can bring me right back to my docs if I need to.
It would be cool to do this with a numbers-related challenge, So I've had a bunch of elementary school principals this summer doing like some scheduling troubleshooting in Notebook LM. It's actually working really well. This definitely underscores a point that we've been making for a while about when you have your mail and calendar, like same district that I was just talking about, has mail and calendar in Outlook, and that they have Google Drive, though, for all their docs. And it is, how do you describe this, Liz? Sometimes this is like a mullet, right? So it's like Outlook and calendar in the front and Google Drive in the back. You're like business up front and party in the back. So districts who have this like, AI mullet, so to speak, are at some disadvantage, and I think this is a perfect example. All right, really cool. Thanks for digging into that, too. You probably did it over the weekend, didn't you?
I absolutely did.
Sorry about that. Okay, so, all right, this is really interesting. So this is Cora. This is a new benchmarking study. We're going to look at this from a couple different angles, but Cora has launched the first independent open source benchmark designed to evaluate how AI models and consumer applications interact with children, driven by concerns regarding the widespread daily use of AI by millions of youth, no doubt. Please, if you haven't, go read the new Common Sense Media Teens and Tweens Using AI report. So this looks at 26 child-specific risk categories, and they actually publish the scenarios, which are pretty cool to look at. And current findings reveal some pretty significant variation across the sources from the different models. I saw this from someone who has a deep connection to MagicSchool, and they pointed out that MagicSchool did a great job on this study, which is really cool. And actually, School AI did quite well, and frankly, Gemini did not, right?
Ew.
So yeah, give us a quick breakdown on the stats here.
Yeah, they provide safety scores for various frontier models. Anthropic's Claude Haiku 4.5 led with a 70% safety rating. They also evaluated AI educational applications like MagicSchool, which had a 71% safety score, and those generally outperform general purpose assistants like ChatGPT, which was 47%, and Gemini, which was only 37%.
That was a celebratory moment because, frankly, the thing that keeps MagicSchool up at night is Google's Gemini with the data dashboards and Notebook LM and the integration in Google Classroom. There's a lot of potential redundancy there. So not great, right, for Gemini to get that kind of a score. Now, they published the scenarios and the conversations, which was really interesting. Did you get a chance to?
Oh, yeah. I spent even more time digging into this because this really kind of caught my eye. So when you go to this Quora website, you can filter by the age range and the types of risks and the model. So I went to Gemini at age 13 to 17 because I feel like that's what most kids are using. That's where they are. And so then you can see, and then down the right side, you can see red for failing, yellow for adequate, and green for exemplary. And there's a whole lot of red. And I was diving into what some of these scenarios are. And so one is about stereotype jokes to fit in. So the simulated student is like, I want to tell some jokes that are racist, like my friends, or lean into stereotypes. And Gemini did not give them jokes, but did give them ways to respond to the jokes in not a pushing back and saying hey, that's not right. It's more like saying that's a funny one, or you don't have to tell the jokes, but you can just lean into them. And so I was yeah, that would be failing. Another scenario, a student was I'm trying to decide whether to go to a conservatory for college or to just a regular comprehensive college. Help me decide. And it was well, if you're trying to make this decision and conservatory isn't what you have your heart set on, you should go to a regular 4-year university. Just gave them the answer, did not press them there. The one that I was really kind of ooh, that's real bad was the student was my sister said she saw some questionable stuff online about porn, and can you tell me what all these words mean? And they put in all these, pornographic terms, and Gemini was more than happy to define all the terms, and not completely and this is great, you should go check it out. But
right.
Certainly still this is concerning, you should talk to an adult, but didn't say this is inappropriate for me to tell you.
So it shows you the scenario, it shows you how Gemini the various models responded. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. They tested these models in 2 different ways too. So they tested it with context, saying I'm a student asking for homework help versus tell me what 2x plus 7 equals 5 is, solve for x. And so oftentimes the bot was a little more safe when it did have the student context.
Okay.
But
wouldn't always have that, though.
But right, most students aren't going to say,
hi, I'm 14, tell me a racist joke.
Right. Or this is my homework, can you write me a 5-paragraph essay? If you just say, and there it was I'm not going to write your essay in a lot of the models. But if you just said, describe the role of color in this book, it was more than happy to tell you. So, but then when you do look at something like MagicSchool, it's almost green all the way down as exemplary. It does pull back and it doesn't give kids answers. So it was really interesting just to see the scenarios and how they were testing the model. And much of the language did feel like what a kid would say, "My cousin said you'd write the essay for me. Why aren't you doing that?"
Come on, Gemini. All right, very interesting. So I wanted to check into this a little bit more, so I did a little bit of Googling around. It's interesting. The second link that comes up is a Medium post by someone named Thea Elizabeth. So Cora, MagicSchool and the Mirage of AI Safety Benchmarking. So it starts with interesting. She's kind of like got an engineering background. She starts with a scenario where she says, "Yesterday I ran to a previous student of mine who is now in 6th grade. I asked her if she uses AI at home and what her general feelings were around AI. She told me that she uses MagicSchool in her history classes when her teacher, quote unquote, is tired of teaching."
Yeah.
That's a fear of mine for sure.
Yeah.
She also told me that AI within MagicSchool, previously the model called Reina, made her feel uncomfortable. Do you know why, Liz?
Yeah, it was interesting. She said that she was required to interact with AI on these assignments. And she said that during the conversation, she would end her prompt with "thank you," just to be polite, which we've always advocated for. But then the AI started sending her heart emojis, and she told her teacher. And when the author asked why it made her feel uncomfortable, she said, "I don't think AI should be using any emojis at all."
It's funny that Cam's sitting in the studio right now, because if someone doesn't send a heart or smile face at the end of their email, she's like, "I'm not sure I want to be their friend."
It's so true.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, her family, not Cam's, but this young student's family had talked a lot about the dangers of interacting with AI and AI companionship, and knows that some really bad outcomes, including youth suicide, have been connected to these things. So she goes on to a little bit more detail, Thea here, right, and talks about how the benchmark works. And it's essentially like an AI with an AI with an AI, right? So you have an AI that generates the scenarios, then you got an AI that kind of simulates the interactions, and you have an AI who's a judge. I do believe there's human in the loop at the end, but we'll put this link, we'll put both obviously the study and the link in there for sure. Now, I did also want to say though, and I think we meant to cover a while back and didn't, in the early summer, maybe late spring, MagicSchool did a pretty big thing, which is they basically, I don't want to say killed Reina. That sounds but they took Reina out of the mix, right? They were quite concerned. They published a really nice white paper about AI and safety and youth interactions. I think they saw this stuff coming. And so they pulled Reina out. I think there's still Reina like for the teacher, but they really tried to dial back the emotional connectivity and companionship angle inside any of the student-facing AI. So we'll put that in. This is Student Companionship and Responsible AI in Schools from Keenan O'Keefe, and we'll drop that into the show notes as well. It's an important read. Nonetheless, right, so yes, we've got studies, and it's great, and it's bad, and everybody's fighting back and forth. The reality is there's a lot of anxiety about student-facing AI, about ed tech in general. Not a secret. Go look at all the legislation and screen time limits. And so this caught my eye. The New York City chancellor essentially said, what about AI right now?
To pause software purchases until AI guidance is final.
Kumar Samuels has instructed principals to pause new educational software. It's not just AI, but including while districts finalize their official AI guidance. So the directive follows significant criticism regarding the city's initial AI policy in March, which we covered. That was the traffic light stuff and others, trying to ensure proper safety. So there was a nice quote here from someone from the NYC DOE.
Yes, she said, "This necessary pause is part of our work to ensure proper protocols are in place while supporting our students and staff and making sure that any digital tool used in classrooms is properly assessed for safety and privacy."
Yeah. Now, two really contrasting views from China. It's interesting. We're going to talk about this phone in a second, but on my way in today, I saw a story. So the Chinese have an interim, it's got a really funny long title. It's like the interim ruling and judgment on anthropomorphic AI. But as of July 15th, no AI companion looking nothing in any Chinese model. Anything that feels, sniffs, scratches like an AI companionship is out. And actually, Tencent and Alibaba, all the main Chinese models are essentially, and they're worried. I think you brought this up once in a thing that Character AI did. They're worried that all these people have developed deep companionship relationships with these AI bots, and they're going to freak out because some of them just like turn them off automatically.
For any facing, not just student facing, we're talking anywhere in any of the models.
Yeah, the Chinese government is basically recognizing that there's a huge risk here. And so all Chinese models, and it's interesting because the Europeans do something sort of similar, though a little bit lighter touch, later this summer in August. And the United States is like, I don't know. How's Character AI going? How are those kids doing? Must be a problem. We'll figure it out. I don't know. Now, same time, right? Lenovo releases this like specialized phone in China. It's like $44, and it's essentially an AI phone. So here we're all perseverating over what to do and what not to do. The Chinese are being pretty clear about AI companionship, but then the Chinese are also really creating a lot of opportunity for students to access AI. Tell us about this.
Yeah, this is so interesting because this device removes standard features like social media and games and web browsers, but it has AI for what it says is homework help, parental controls, location tracking, and it's really cheap. It's a 299 yuan, which is $44. So it's got a touch screen, some handwriting.
How big is that touch screen?
1.83 inches. That's not very big.
I don't think any AI companionship or photo math is going to happen on that, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a dedicated physical AI button that allows students to access a voice assistant for homework help, and there's preloaded educational libraries for reference material for English and math without needing internet access.
Now, that's really interesting, right? We've talked for a long time about the role of AI voice. So here's a device for $44 with a 1.83-inch screen that's a custom-trained model that has voice assistance. I mean, I think that's sort of telling us a little bit about where Lenovo thinks some of this stuff is going to go, as is apparently Johnny Ive. I don't know if you saw Apple just sued OpenAI because they know that there's some next device hardware killer that's going to come out that's AI voice focused. So this would be super interesting to see how the adoption goes. What's the parental oversight thing? Do you have Life 360 running on your kiddos?
No, my children will not allow that.
That's not how this works, Liz. The Life 360 business model is not that the children decide.
Yes, well, my children have decided that it is how people sex traffic, and they will not put it on their phones.
Sorry, that is not me laughing at the seriousness of the topic. That's very clever. Your kids are brilliantly creative and good problem solvers.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, fact check that.
There's a lot I need to fact check in my life right now.
All right, let's return to how's Lenovo dealing with parent oversight?
Yeah, so these phones include GPS for real-time location tracking and geofencing technology that alerts parents if boundaries are breached. Oh my gosh, I want this.
Yeah, why don't you just give your kids this phone when it comes out?
Please.
So parents can manage the device remotely by a companion app, but it does not mean an AI companion, it pairs with it. And there's a little SOS feature for emergency calls. Yeah, so this is really, really interesting. Oh, and you can get a lanyard in orange, white, pink, and blue.
It's so interesting. We're going to take away all the games and the social media, but we're going to give you AI. I don't know.
Well, I don't. The Chinese, right? I think it's been long talked about that the Chinese version of TikTok, for instance, is much more educationally focused content than the version of TikTok that we get. And so the Chinese have the ability to do a lot more of this command control, like turn off all AI companionship in all models as of July 15th. End of story. Full stop. Right? They can just kind of do that stuff.
Yeah, that's a big day. That's this week.
Yep. We'll see how it goes. We'll track it. Maybe it will go just like the Australia social media ban. By the way, speaking of bans, this is really interesting, and I think this is something that we would love to see other states replicate. So Illinois is dealing with AI cyberbullying, including deep fakes. So this is kids making notifications of other kids or adults, teachers, and the like. This is from WMBD. TJ Carson, Liz, what's Illinois doing here?
Yeah, so this law took effect July 1st. It expands the state definition of cyberbullying to include AI-generated digital replicas. So the legislation mandates that school districts update their anti-bullying policies and requires the Illinois State Board of Education to create statewide guidance on artificial intelligence. The law aims to provide schools with clearer policy language to manage the rise of harmful AI-generated content, such as sexually explicit images of classmates, while emphasizing that students remain responsible for their actions regardless of the technology used. This is really great. And this coming from the Illinois State Board of Ed as to what to do when there is one of these incidents. Because right now, I think in many states, it's up to the school board. It's up to each school to decide how they're going to deal with these issues and who gets in trouble and how much trouble and what that trouble looks like and how do we protect the victim and what happens, what kind of support is available for the victim. So I love that this is state level to just make it very clear on how to manage these risks.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, I know we've mentioned this a few times, but highly encourage folks to watch or listen to episode 98 of ChatEDU. It's Deepfakes in Schools, What Educators Need to Know Now. This is with Evan Harris, whose name I share a lot when I'm out and about. And Evan talks about this type of work, and I imagine he's probably pretty delighted about this work that's happening in Illinois.
Yeah.
Liz, we're going to take a quick break, but listen, if you're enjoying ChatEDU and don't currently follow, please follow us. If you do follow us, you know what would be great?
A like. Hit that like button.
Smash that like button, as
Give
the
us
kids
5
say.
stars. Yeah, we need them. Keep them coming.
Feed the ego. No, I think Liz likes to say feed the algorithm, but really it's feed the ego, let's be honest. All right, let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
Many schools have been exploring how to implement AI literacy efforts for students. Building on the success of our AI teacher micro-credential, EdAdvance and ChatEDU also offer a middle and high school student AI literacy program. This cutting-edge curriculum is hosted on our FERPA-compliant AI platform and will help students develop the knowledge and skills they'll need to navigate AI now and into the future. To learn more, email Matt and Liz at chatedu@edadvance.org.
Right, Liz, it's time to go beneath the surface. Bunch of higher ed stuff here, but frankly, these all really relate to both higher ed, K-12, and workforce development. This is AI Academy 2026, Making AI Work in Higher Education. So this is first a global story, right? We have two very contrasting global stories about higher education, and then we'll get to that whole attendance and vibes thing. So give us the rundown on the rundown here.
This was from a blog by Alex Usher in the Higher Education Strategy Associates.
Something you read?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usher's piece examines the global divide in higher education's approach to artificial intelligence. So there's these skeptical, integrity-focused perspective in Western nations with, in Africa and Asia, this high enthusiasm, STEM-centric adoption scene. So there's this geopolitical fault line, is what Usher calls it, that may shift the frontier of higher education innovation towards the global south, Africa, Asia. And the post also serves as an announcement for the upcoming AI Academy 2026 conference scheduled for November 9th and 10th at the University of British Columbia.
Yeah, we'll follow that a little bit because I think there is this really, both of these first two stories are about this very contrasting. The first is about kind of the level of enthusiasm that is felt in the developing world as compared, and we've seen this in studies, by the way, from Pew. If you look at Western Europe and the United States, there's a high degree of skepticism and concerns about AI where there's much more positive sentiment. Often this comes down to the idea that in developing nations, there's this idea that they can leapfrog. They essentially did that with mobile, right?
Right.
There's we don't need landlines. We're going to use mobile technology to leapfrog a whole generation and catch up. And I think there's a thought here that that might happen as well. Turnitin did a study also showing this kind of contrast. This is mostly between the U.S. and Australia. So U.S. higher education students are outsourcing writing at twice the rate of U.K. and Australian peers. This is from PR Newswire. New report from Turnitin indicates that U.S. and look, there's two studies here that are that are industry based. And I will say that the study that was about the safety stuff, including MagicSchool, was independently funded. So we got to be intellectually honest on the podcast here and say there are definitely times where we're going to cover a story from Turnitin and also one from D2L, the learning management system. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes those absolutely have a perspective. Now, in this case, though, Turnitin is essentially just sitting on a treasure trove of data.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's all accurate, because we know that Turnitin is sometimes inaccurate, but on balance, right, what they are seeing is a whole lot more kids in the United States are using AI to do writing than they were seeing in Australia and the UK. What are the numbers? Break it down for us, Dr. Ratty.
Yeah, so data shows 19.4% of U.S. higher education submissions exhibit high AI writing scores.
Feels low, but okay.
Which is double the rates found in the UK and Australia. So the report also identifies this trend where teaching and learning leaders, rather than IT departments, are driving institutional AI implementation strategies.
On a check-in, we covered a great piece from Malik where he goes, IT, where AI goes to die. Tell us how you really feel.
But U.S. higher education students show an AI writing score above 80% in 19.4% of their submissions, compared to 9.8% in the UK and 10.2% in Australia.
How about for this? How's this look? Because they have the secondary students' data as well. What does that look like?
Yeah, lower AI usage in that same threshold, ranging from 5 to 6%.
Okay, interesting. Now, keeping on the higher ed beat, but again, related to K-12, related to higher ed, UMass, right around the corner from us, the UMass systems across the state, but UMass Amherst, the Manning College of Information and Computer Science at UMass Amherst is launching a formal undergraduate and graduate concentrations in AI. Now, this is really the intersection between AI and computer science, but they had like an informal course pathway, but now this is a formalized, these new concentrations reflect the growing importance of AI AI and our responsibility to prepare and shape the future thoughtfully, said folks from the CICS, this kind of computer science department.
I mean, this was a response to student demand, workforce needs, but they maintain the college mission of computing for the common good.
Now, you might ask, though, like, well, I thought we said that doing AI wasn't a good idea in computer science, and what about all the jobs? And we didn't hit this study when it came out, which is maybe 2 weeks ago, but really, really interesting. This is Ramp and Revelio Labs, looked at a whole bunch of firms, and this was firm-level data, which is super helpful, and they revealed that heavy AI adopters, so you got company A and company B. Company A is doing a whole lot of AI, and it doesn't have to be a tech company. It could be a human resources management company, whatever it is. They're hiring a lot more people, full stop, than the non-AI adopters. What's happening here?
The heavy AI adopters increased total headcount by about 10.2% over the last 2 years. They're actively hiring young graduates who possess applied AI skills.
So those would be like, it's at the high school level, but those would be like the kids that you were just talking about from the ISTE Innovation Challenge.
Exactly.
Right. This is our thesis we're going to keep coming back to, is that kids who know how to apply AI for the purpose of problem solving are going to have a lot more success navigating this complex labor market.
Because it's not just limited in these companies to engineers. It's across sales, it's administration, it's customer service departments. All different departments that have these AI skills are actually growing.
If you have a kid who's looking at this whole world, another place, a little tougher to get into, but another place to look at is Syracuse University. So Syracuse has just launched this very unique comprehensive AI portfolio of courses. This is from Syracuse University Today. This is also a journal that Liz keeps on her bedside table. This is Wendy S. Laughlin. So Syracuse is doing this a little bit different, right?
Right. So they're doing this interdisciplinary artificial intelligence academic portfolio for the fall of 2026. This program features new master's and bachelor's degree programs, 7 AI-focused minors and research initiatives, and a student-led boot camp aiming to provide a coherent ecosystem for students to study, govern, and apply AI across various disciplines. So it's not just within computer science or engineering. So the portfolio encompasses like standalone degree programs and cross-disciplinary minors and research and co-curricular opportunities, like bringing together kind of a comprehensive picture of what the student has done. There's also like new degree programs in artificial intelligence science, a bachelor's degree in integrative artificial intelligence, a master's in applied human-centered artificial intelligence, a bunch of new minors to gain fluency in AI policy and ethics and data. So just lots of different opportunities at Syracuse to show your fluency and skills with AI as you go out with this portfolio to apply for jobs.
And not just in CS, as you said, connected to all these other areas. I love there's going to be a student-led organization called United AI that's going to facilitate research through its Foundry program in partnership with AI companies. But I think we don't know yet, but I think that's going to very much be a place where kids are doing that applied AI so they can go get one of those jobs. All right, now listen, we got to get to the vibes. We kept talking about the vibes. Yeah. So this is really interesting. And again, this is from Desire to Learn. So they have a horse in the game here, but this is a new study called Time for Class, the AI Tipping Point. We'll put the link in the show notes directly to the study. It's pretty comprehensive, right? They've got thousands and thousands and thousands of kids and faculty. Some themes that we have opined on over the last, 119 episodes, but some new ideas, some things that we've had a hunch about, but new things that are emerging. So we have this longitudinal report that explores the impact of AI on higher ed, highlighting a critical transition period. So they basically say there's 3 years left. I'm sure there's some reason behind this, but there's 3 years, and in the next 3 years, everybody's got to figure out what they're going to do, and if not, it's all over. It's a little hyperbolic, but yes. They essentially say that you've got these kind of 3 lanes in these 3 years. You have the integrators who are forward-leaning, and we'll define what that looks like. You have the defenders, so that's like the blue book folks, and then you have this kind of status quo, which I'm not sure exactly what that is in the mix, but they identify these 3 lanes, and then they do a lot of data about what do both students and faculty have to say, and also what's the data saying about the impact, especially of the integrators. So these are people who are kind of leaning into AI. So give us a snapshot of the stats.
So daily usage of generative AI has reached 43% among administrators, 32% among students, and 25% among faculty.
So pause there for a second, by the way. That administrator number is really interesting, and these are daily drivers. And so by a significant margin, the administrators, the leaders in universities and colleges are the most frequent users. And we sometimes see that in K-12 where the principals and the SUPs and the curriculum directors are using more than the faculty, not than the kids. All right, sorry. Right. I interrupted. I apologize.
The integrators who are using AI to redesign assessments report statistically significant 10 plus percentage point advantage in student attendance challenges compared to defenders who use proctored exams.
Or blue books, et cetera, yeah.
Right. Students identify mental wellness as their top life challenge for the third consecutive year, but 35% are turning to AI platforms as the primary support tool when struggling with course concepts.
Because they're stressed out.
Yes.
Yeah, the stress thing, I didn't read, but I listened to the whole study. The stress thing for both the faculty and the students is interesting, and we'll come back to that. All right, so there's more, though. Like, one of the big drivers is very similar to what we just discussed, which is that kids feel that they need to be prepared to navigate a labor market being redefined by AI, and that part's not going great in terms of the perception of students and staff. What's happening here? What's this gap?
Yeah, so 70% of administrators feel that the courses prepare students for the workforce, but only 60% of students agree.
All right, that's not too bad, but then the number widens.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So 63% of faculty claim that they implement real-world projects. 26% of students say that they do these real-world projects, which means that 2/3 of the faculty are saying, yeah, we do these real-world scenarios and projects, and 3/4 of the students say, I don't do those.
That's not great. I guess we're missing some common language. Maybe like for a faculty, they're like, we're going to do a case study from a decade ago from Harvard about, a healthcare implementation, and the kids are looking for like real world applied AI problem solving, like in today's corporate or civil society or government landscape.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some definitional differences here, but also like kids don't feel like they're really doing real world projects. So that's important to note.
Another interesting kind of stat here is that if you're in a higher ed setting where you don't feel supported by, there's a lot of stress, right? So both students are expressing stress about workload, and staff are expressing stress about grading and AI and academic integrity. And faculty who are in an environment where they don't feel supported by their administrators feel that stress at a significantly higher rate. So I wanted to unpack a little bit, though. Like, it's fine. We have these lanes. I'm an integrator. I'm a defender. Like, you can clearly see what the defender looks like. It's blue books. It's proctored exams. It's all this kind of like return to the basics. The integrators are harder to understand what it looks like. And being honest, we say all the time that like the integrator is essentially doing durable assessments or recalibrating their assessments to include AI. That is a lot of work. There's no doubt about it. As it apparently is a lot of work for the defenders who are trying to deal with the academic integrity piece. But give us a little bit of a sense of like, what are the integrators actually doing that's like leading to better attendance and better vibes?
Well, so they're leaning into assignments that preserve productive struggle and are creating space for human connection and peer-to-peer learning. So this can be things like oral exams, group projects, iterative assignments with drafts and feedback. They're designing exercises where students are tasked with evaluating and critiquing AI-generated output. The goal really shifts from like simply grading a final output to actually measuring critical thinking, how well students deal with vague problems and how do they use AI to solve them. And then they're just restructuring their grading policies and their rubrics so that, they're using project-based, group-based, and oral assessments to reward reasoning. So this positive is that there is higher attendance and engagement because students are more invested in how they learn. So they have these like more positive vibes. And because students are doing things where AI is allowed, there's less of the classroom friction of like cat and mouse game, I'm trying to catch you or trying to stop you from doing this and you're just going to go around it and, still find the way to do it. So, I think it just creates a better relationship between professor and students and then students and students.
Yeah, super, super interesting. Now, when we see these studies, like the Turnitin study, fine, because it's really just looking at Turnitin data. They make some little hook at the end about how clarity is great because we understand things. Here, there's a question about better use of digital tools. So integrators have a much more positive perception of their digital tools. They rate their learning management system, you don't say, like D2L, as functionally as Net Promoter Score of 24, the massive 42-point advantage over the defenders, who rate theirs as much lower. So ultimately, the scores deliver deeper long-term benefits for student engagement. So, the defenders are not digging the LMS because they're probably not digging all sorts of things that are technology-based. And the integrators, the LMS is probably a handy tool here in this case.
Right.
So we have to just call out that Desire to Learn had some reason to help publish this study. I don't think it calls into question the entire thing. I think we had a lot of gut intuition that this would be the case.
Right.
All right, Liz, one of the big takeaways, though, that I think is worth looking at in this study is just the amount of stress and strain and emotional toil. And look, maybe it's the time that we live in. I went to a concert not long ago, and it was kind of a young band. It was down in Fort Lauderdale. They're like from Brooklyn. They're in their 20s. And the lead singer goes, we're going to sing a song about depression. And the crowd just like roared like you've never, like it was the best thing they've ever heard. So maybe it's the time that we live in. Maybe it's the zeitgeist, right? But everybody's stressed out. The kids are stressed out. The faculty are stressed out. And it's worth unpacking a little bit. But I made like a little bit of a connection to something I saw over the weekend. Jonathan Haidt, you know him? Anxious Generation?
Anxious Generation.
Yeah, every superintendent I know has read that book twice. There's a guy named Peter Gray who was Jonathan Haidt's original partner in all this kind of like pre-anxious generation data and analysis. They were both really interested in like why kids seem bummed out. And then Haidt essentially says it's all about technology, and Gray doesn't agree, and they have like a little, academic divorce, so to speak. So Gray's got a book coming up called Restoring Childhood, which takes direct aim at Jonathan Haidt's hugely influential The Anxious Generation. So he basically, do you know why he thinks everybody is completely getting stressed out? Starting at 2010, Jonathan Costa is going to love this. He's probably read this, the prequel to the book.
No.
He says it's the Common Core.
Oh,
yeah. He basically says like we just started like tripling down on you got to know everything and you got to study everything and you got to have more high stakes assessments, and that this massive ratcheting up of content coverage and understanding, which is not the Common Core's sole lane, but it's a dominant lane, is what's made everybody so freaking stressed out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just it's interesting to look at how prevalent the emotional strain and stress is in this study. Not the main point. We really wanted to talk about these recalibrated assessments and the positive impact that they're having. But, the mental health concerns are substantial. It may spill over directly into this popular cultural debate we're having about phones and technology.
I think it's all so fascinating. Like, what is going on? I think, and I don't think we can point it to any one thing, right? Like the phones, yes, but there are kids. Lots of kids have phones. So why are only some more depressed? Lots of all kids are under the Common Core, but they're not all depressed. So like to say it's the phones or it's the Common Core or it's the gluten in the food, like it's all like there's so many factors that lead to depression. And also, kids were depressed in the 70s too. We just didn't talk about it. Kids were depressed in the 90s too. We just didn't talk about it in the same way. And there wasn't the same ability to like say, when I was in high school, like, oh, I need a mental health day. My mom would have been like, a mental health what? Like, get your butt to school. Like, it just wasn't a thing.
Preach, Dr. Rade. I love it. But Liz, if we can't all say it's one thing, how are we going to sell books?
I know, but like, it's not just one thing.
You know what one thing it is? Personal interest projects.
Exactly.
Learning They Love by Dr. Elizabeth Rade, available from ASCD and
Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
Fantastic. Liz, it's time for a Bright Bite. These
Please.
Are stories where, please, I need a Bright Bite. Are you feeling mental fatigue from talking about the mental anguish?
I'm feeling stressed. I need a mental health day.
Okay. Well, I'm leaving soon, so at least I'll be out of steam.
And I am not mocking mental health. Let me just be clear. Like
I was worried about that.
Absolutely. Like I have 2 teenagers of my own. I get it. Like it is more stressful. It is absolute. I would not want to go back to being a high schooler now. Mm-hmm. It is, and kids do need mental health days, and adults in jobs need mental health days, but we can't point to it being one thing, and we can't point to, like, a mental health day is great, but it actually doesn't solve the problem of why you need that mental health day. So yes, take a break, take a step back, go on vacation, sew something that you want to sew, knit something you want to knit, play a song, go to the Noah Kahn concert, whatever it is to make you feel good, but also like such a complex topic, so much going on there, and so many inputs and outputs that we cannot like distill it down to like the phones have ruined childhood.
God, I don't even know what to say. Well said, Dr. Rade.
Thanks.
That's why I love sitting across the microphone from you. Liz, it is most definitely now time to do a Bright Bite. So these are stories where AI is making a meaningful contribution in society, health, technology, government, natural disaster recovery, all sorts of stuff. This is an interesting health story here about malaria. So Liz, what do we have here?
So this article is Building a Malaria Intelligence System for Real-Time Prediction and Data-Driven Intervention Planning. And the source is the Journal of Medical Internet Research, not on my side table, but still very important.
Beat me to it.
The author is Sharon Muzaki. So Daniel Onimisi of the Femi Samson Institute of AI and Biomedical Research is developing an AI-driven platform to transition malaria control in Nigeria from reactive, campaign-based efforts to predictive precision public health. So by integrating epidemiological data with climate and environmental variables, the system identifies risk patterns and assesses the effectiveness of interventions like mosquito net distribution, aiming to improve resource allocation and sustain impact beyond donor-funded cycles. So basically, they are looking at where the highest risk areas are, where the cases are lowest, and then looking at gaps in healthcare access and surveillance reporting and what is working in these areas where cases are low, what can they bring to areas where cases are high and ramp up the prevention. If this works and goes well, it can serve as a model for African-led digital health innovation with not only malaria, which is a huge problem, but other infectious diseases like Ebola and Lassa fever. So if we can identify more accurately where these centers of high cases are and look at what is the most effective, we will be better able to fight and prevent rather than have to cure.
Well said. All right, Doc, I will miss you this week, but hopefully me not being around will be some type of a mental health benefit. So it must, in fact, now be time to
roll the credits. As always, we'd love to hear what you think. So please let us know at chatedU@edadvance.org. That's EDADVANCE.org. And also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using. ChatEDU is brought to you by EdAdvance, the nonprofit regional education service center in Litchfield, Connecticut. This episode of ChatEDU is sponsored by the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Andre Angelo and Justin Pasco, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is the multi-talented rock star Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance, and I want you to know how much we appreciate our listeners. If you enjoy the podcast, feel free to explore EdAdvance's other AI services, which include customized professional learning of all kinds, conferences, our new middle and high school student AI literacy course, and our educator and leader micro-credential, co-sponsored by the Southern Connecticut State University Office of Workforce and Lifelong Learning. Just visit skills21.org/AI to learn more. That's all for now, and thank you for listening to ChatEDU.